It's about that time of year, man. We usually do these types of videos in the off-season because, of course, this type of material isn't really something to thrust right in there into the regular NHL news cycle, but we're going over onto Twitter and giving a big shout-out once again to Mason Black. What Mason does is he runs the NHL Rank King phone application, which is an app where users can go out there and vote for fantasy hockey-related things as well as rank players, look at prospects, and look at PNHLE scores as well. This has been one of my most used applications on the smartphone for the past 4 or 5 years pretty much, and I'm not being sponsored or anything to say this is legitimately a good app to go out there and explore, look for new players, find conversation topics to make videos about, etc. So it's a pretty good resource. But what Mason also does is he takes a look at some of the comparisons that are made on the app by different users, and he uses these comparisons to rank the top 25 defenseman prospects in the NHL based off of the app. The rankings are based on consensus votes cast by users in the app, and they're constantly evolving. This is a list of the 25 most desired or most valuable D prospects in the NHL. Of course, based on the title, we're only going over the top 10. We've got ourselves 10 prospects as voted by the users of this application, and it's a pretty diverse pool of users, I would say. I mean, Mason has thousands of followers on Twitter, so I think it's pretty easy to see where these users are coming from. So without further ado, let's go over the top 10 defenseman ranked prospects as ranked by users of the app, starting out with number 10. It is from the St. Louis Blues, Scott Perunovich. Now, Perunovich is a guy that's a lot older than all the other players on this list. 23 years old, 5'10", 174 as a left-handed guy, drafted by St. Louis back in 2018. Now, Perunovich stepped right away into the NCAA's Minnesota Duluth system as an absolutely dynamo offensive defenseman. He maxed out as a junior, getting 40 points in 34 games played, but you can see immediately afterwards, 2020-2021 saw him play 0 games, 21-22 saw him play, 36 games in total? He has been riddled with injuries ever since stepping out of the NCAA system, which is a very unfortunate thing, but when he has been in the lineup, he's been pretty good. 4 points in 7 games for the Blues in the postseason in their second-round exit, and 22 points in 17 games played for the Springfield Thunderbirds in the AHL. He had a lot of injuries slowing him down, so hopefully next season he'll be a lot healthier, but Perunovich is a guy that a lot of NHL fans are ranking as one of the best defenseman prospects in the game. The 9th best NHL prospect as a D-man is Denton Matejuk. Playing out of the Moose Jaw Warriors and drafted by Columbus in this year's NHL Draft, Mateychuk absolutely lit the WHL on fire, getting 64 points in 65 games played. He was also a point per game in the playoffs. Now, Mateychuk is a really unique and interesting offensive defender who plays such a possession, skill-based game. There have been concerns as to whether or not Mateychuk's offense will translate to higher levels of play, but at the end of the day, taking a look at what he's done so far in the WHL, he's been an absolute treat to watch, and a lot of Blue Jackets fans are super excited with him, as well as their other first-round prospect in this year's draft. We'll get to him a little bit later, but going over onto number 8, the 8th ranked NHL defenseman prospect is out of the Red Wings system, Simon Edvinsson. Edvinsson is a big boy, 6'6", 207, left-handed, drafted out of 2021, 6th overall. He's a guy who, playing for the Frölunda Hockey Club this previous season, had 19 points in 44 games, but you're not really going to go out there and expect Edvinsson to score the lights out as he gets to higher levels of play. Sure, he might max out as a 30, 35, 40-point defenseman even, but it's the security in the way he plays defense as well as his mobility and height that really adds to the profile of this player in general. The Red Wings have themselves an absolute stud in Moritz Seider, and everybody's kind of hoping that Edvinsson can be the guy to pair alongside of him for the next decade and a half pretty much. Edvinsson has a sky-high ceiling, and the Red Wings are getting a good one in this player, as Edvinsson is the 8th ranked prospect. Going over onto number 7, we talked about Columbus and Denton Matejuk. The 7th best defenseman prospect is David Jiricek, also drafted by Columbus. Now, we talked about that Moritz Seider a few seconds ago here. You want to talk about what Seider is at the NHL level? David Jiricek kind of projects to being in that similar mold. 6'3", 190 as a right-handed defenseman who went out there in the Czechia League posting up 11 points in 29 games played. Again, not the highest amount of numbers in the world, but he's playing for a pro-men's league. He's not looking out of place. He is looking pretty dominant, actually, and even though he had an injury that slowed him down in 2021-2022, he still went 6th overall to Columbus in this year's draft. Should Jiricek pan out, you're probably looking at a top 2 defenseman that can play a rock-solid role and just get a whole bunch of points as well. Columbus has themselves a really good future with Jiricek and Mateychuk at 9 and 7 here on this list. The 6th overall prospect in the eyes of NHL fans is Olin Zellweger out of the Everett Silvertips, drafted by the Anaheim Ducks in the 2021 draft. Now, he was taken 34th overall in the second round, but this 5'10", 174-pound left-handed defenseman has absolutely showed off that he likely should have been a first-round talent, because after that season wherein he was drafted, getting 13 points at 11 games played, he absolutely exploded, getting 78 points in 55 games for Everett the next year. He also was over a point per game in the playoffs, and we all kind of quickly saw, wait a minute, this guy's actually a lot better than we had thought from that 11-game sample he had last year. Now, of course, there was a pandemic that slowed down the world, and the WHL did not really have the best availability for games, but Zellweger still went out there and dominated the year after, getting that amount of points, and now, he's one of the best defenders in the entire CHL, and that's saying a lot over there. He's really risen up the ranks, and he's the 6th best overall prospect on defense because of it. The 5th overall prospect for defenders is Ottawa Senators pick from 2020, Jake Sanderson. 6'2", 190 pounds as a left-handed guy. He was a top pick back in the 2020 draft, and making his debut at the North Dakota Fighting Sioux the next few years, he was an absolute stud. He had 26 points in 23 games played this most recent season, but it's not really the point production by itself that stands out to you. It's the way this guy moves across the ice. He is so mobile, so quick, especially for a bigger guy, and he's so responsible and offensively potent. He is a great hockey player through and through, and when it comes to being just an all-round puck-moving, puck-facilitating, puck-defending defender, Jake Sanderson is among the best in the entire crop, and arguably one of the best that the Ottawa Senators are going to have to see in their system for a long time. Moving over to the 4th best prospect, it's another NCAA guy. First overall in 2021, it's Owen Power. He is the 4th-ranked prospect here on this list, and you take a look at what Owen Power did after wrapping up his first overall rookie campaign in the NCAA. He refused to go to the NHL right away, went back to Michigan, had 32 points in 33 games played, and just worked on all the kinks and rough aspects to his game that he had to work on from the season beforehand. He's huge, 6'6", 214 pounds as a left-handed guy, and he made the Buffalo Sabres at the end of the Michigan season last year, getting 3 points in 8 games. Definitely not bad, and somebody that looked a lot more confident as his stint in the NHL went on. Owen Power has a sky-high ceiling. Everybody kind of knows all the hype for this player. Heading into the long-term future, it's really just going to depend on how he works on the other aspects of his game, because when it comes to his ability, his tools, he's got all the tools. He just has to find the toolbox to keep them in and make sure that he uses them properly. Going over to the 3rd best NHL prospect, it's a pretty interesting one in my opinion. Brandt Clarke of the LA Kings is ranked higher than Owen Power and all the other CHL guys that we had talked about too. Clarke is 6'2", 185 as a right-handed defenseman, drafted 8th overall in the 2021 draft. This recent season in the OHL, he had 59 points in 55 games played. Now, that's not the best point production, but he was playing for Barrie, he was the captain, it was a very good showcase for that squad. But for Brandt Clarke, he's a guy that I've always kind of labeled in my mind as a right-handed version of Quinn Hughes. It's just, as the years went on, there was a lot more that differentiated Brandt, putting him into a category of his own in terms of the offense, in terms of the skating, in terms of the path that he took. But either way, Brandt Clarke is ranked really highly in this system. I personally would not really have him this high, but I like him a lot still, so we'll see where his career goes in the long-term future. He definitely does have a high ceiling as well. I don't want to discredit that. It's just, I would not really think that he would be the 3rd best guy. Moving over onto the top 2 defenseman prospects ranked by NHL users, you have yourselves number 2, Simon Nemec, drafted by the New Jersey Devils 2nd overall, and it's kind of poetic how he's 2nd on the list, 2nd overall. He was a very good right-handed defenseman for Team Slovakia at the Olympic Games, as well as the World Championships, as well as the World Under-18s, and he was a point-per-game guy for HK Nitra in the Slovak playoffs, which was very great to see. Nemec is an offensively-minded, puck-moving defenseman who is going to play very well alongside the number 1 ranked defenseman prospect by NHL Rank King users, Luke Hughes. Yeah, that's right. According to the users, New Jersey has the number 1 and the number 2 best defenseman prospects in the game, and Luke Hughes being at the top of the list is not really all too surprising. He's a left-handed guy playing for Michigan, and he had 39 points in 41 games played. He is so good offensively, he's so mobile, he's the biggest of the Hughes brothers, and Quinn Hughes said that when Luke Hughes was Quinn's age, he was better than Quinn. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to here, especially when you acknowledge that Quinn Hughes is one of the best Vancouver Canucks defenders ever, so yeah, New Jersey. Get excited, guys. Tell me in the comments your thoughts about the top 10 defenseman prospects as ranked by users in the NHL Rank King app. Who do you like? Who do you dislike? Who do you agree with being in their positions? Who do you disagree with? Who do you think should be higher and lower, etc.? Talk to me in the comments your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Rolls 99, and bye.